Welcome into the Tuesday edition, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Joe Rexrode, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing okay. It's a great time of year. There's great games every night in both the NBA and the NHL.
Correct.
And had some good ones last night too.
We sure did. We have live sports that are exciting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
We have a non-live sport event that is kind of sports that coming up on Thursday, mercifully. And we still have a college football movement going on out there as well. It's a big time of year. Big time of year out there. We're going to get to the new quarterback that Tennessee has found a little bit later this hour. Take your thoughts on that. 615-737-1025. Ian Safar, how we doing? What's going on?
Doing great, thanks. A little bit of fog south of town on my way in, so be careful out there if you're driving in. Some fog here and there, but doing great, guys. Thanks. Ready for the draft. Absolutely.
The draft is, according to the clock on ESPN, 60 hours, 58 minutes, and 47 seconds away.
Okay.
So I'm glad that they're counting that down. That's how long we've got left to wait.
Yeah, that's how long we have left to wait, and then we'll finally know what the Tennessee Titans are doing.
Yeah, the best part about this,
1 minute earlier.
Best part about this, the Titans will be on the clock in 60 hours, 58 minutes, and 30 seconds at this point. And then it'll be, they get, 10 minutes?
Yeah, and
it'll be every ounce of that 10 minutes that gets taken before Goodell walks on that stage.
You can count on it, man. You can count on it.
I know you guys have been thinking about this pick for months at this point, but let's exhaust all of this time here.
Well, someone might call. Give everybody all their possible time to decide, we want Cam Ward. We'll give you half the world for Cam Ward.
Yeah, maybe so. Well, speaking of that, it's interesting. Adam Schefter came out with some draft tidbits heading into the draft and hit on a bunch of different topics. Shedeur Sanders was covered in here. When is the day 2 run on receivers going to happen? Like, he had a lot of different things in this thing. And one of the things he brought up was the Titans and looking to add more premium picks. And here is what Schefter said in his little right through here. Quote, "A team looking for more firepower on Friday night will be the Titans, who, in a bit of irony, don't have a third-round pick thanks to their own general manager, Mike Borgonzi. Just over a year ago, Borgonzi was the assistant GM for the Chiefs and a central figure in the trade that sent L'Jarius Sneed from Kansas City to Tennessee in exchange for a 2025 third-round pick. Now, Borgonzi has been hired to help build up the Titans roster. Borgonzi turned down the Giants' overtures to trade up to number 1 in a package of picks that would have included a third-round pick this year. Now he'll have to see if he can find a way back into that round." So it is unclear exactly what that package is from the New York Giants. The only thing Schefter really says about it is that whatever the package was did include a third-round pick this year. I have a tough time believing, like, if the Giants were actually serious about moving up, that's the only thing it included this year. But it apparently at least included a third-round pick there. So,
yeah, what if that was it?
Yeah, we'll swap 1 and 3 with you, and you can have our third rounder. I can imagine that conversation didn't last very long.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna tease us with this, Schefter, tell us exactly what
the
Giants
the
are offering.
Yeah.
Give us the whole thing. That is the first confirmation that there was some kind of an attempt, at least, by the Giants, right? So we know that that Borgonzi and Shane have talked a fair amount here at different events, but yeah, I'd love to know exactly what that is.
I would too. I would assume there's got to be at least a second rounder included in that too. Like the big question we had at the start of all this was, could you get next year's first out of the Giants for moving back 2 spots? And I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. Schefter doesn't say that it was only a third-round pick, but I also feel like if they did have a first-round pick in next year's that was offered, if Schefter got all the other stuff, I think he probably would have gotten that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I feel like if next year's first was part of it, we might be having a completely different discussion about the entire draft right now in the Tennessee Titans. That's I have a hard time buying that it was. I would doubt that it was. And I think, I don't know this, but I think that if you had another pick this year and then next year's first, that'd be hard to pass up again, unless, and that's the thing. We know what they're going to tell us this week. Now, they're not going to tell us today, because today they're not going to confirm that they're drafting Cam Ward when they have their press conference.
Sure.
But we know we're going to hear that, that he was the top guy, or whatever maybe they won't say he was the top player on their board, but that all along it was Cam.
We've known for weeks.
Yeah. I mean, everybody says that, and that's fine. It's what you're supposed to, that's what you're going to say. But yeah, I'd love to know exactly what that offer was and exactly what it would have taken to get the Titans to do something. But at this point, we know what they're going to do.
We know what they're going to do, and that is going to happen almost 61 hours from now. Also interesting, I mean, look, we talked about this with Charles last week, and he had some really interesting thoughts on quarterbacks, basically 2 through 5 here. And what does this mean for Shedeur Sanders? Like, is Sanders, Schefter rolls through this here, and, basically anywhere from the Giants at number 3, obviously people are trying to connect dots to Pittsburgh at 21. Like, there are a couple of really interesting potential landing spots, not only for Sanders, but for some of these other quarterbacks. Like, we talked about Jalen Milroe. Like, if he's available at 21 and Sanders is gone, like, could Pittsburgh take a shot on Jalen Milroe? How does Jackson Dart figure into this? But that seems to be kind of where everybody's at right now, focusing in on the first round of the draft. Of, like, nobody seems to have a really good feel for where exactly Shedeur Sanders is going to end up here, which is going to be pretty fascinating to watch on Thursday night.
Yeah, he's certainly one of the big stories. I know we just did the last, writers drafting exercise, which I don't know if that pops up today or if it might not until tomorrow. But I know in that one there was someone getting back into the first late to get him, not late, but in the 20s to get him.
Yep.
And that could certainly be the case. Yeah, I do feel like some of this stuff that we're hearing now is going to end up being the classic draft misinformation type thing. Like, so we're getting the Saints are all of a sudden in love with Jackson Dart type thing, which, again, Colts in love with Will Levis.
Right.
Colts love Will Levis. Heard a lot of that before that draft. Tyler Shuck, there's a bunch of that. I mean, maybe he does go earlier than you would think. He's older. That's always an interesting debate on the whole, like, how old is he 25? Is that right?
I think so.
Or 24. So, like, to me, like, it's like with the NBA, like with Dalton Connect, it's like, he's 20. So it's like, I don't know. I understand, like, in baseball, and obviously there's some guys like, I don't know exactly how old this guy is, but to me, it's like, however you got there, are you good enough? I mean, if you're 25 years old, but he is 25. He's going to be 26 this September, by the way. But I mean, if you can develop, you can, like, be better at 25 than you were at 23. You can be better at 23 than you were at 21, right?
Yeah.
If you're that good, does it really matter that much? Like, oh man, once we want that third contract with him, he's going to be really old. Okay.
He'd be 38 in 12 years.
But obviously the way some people look at it is, but see, there's way more runway to improve if you're 21 coming out of college. Right. So I get that. But all that is to say, I still think some of this stuff about Tyler Shuck is probably a little bit inflated.
Anthony Richardson is young. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. See, he's young.
Still got a lot
of
runway.
He's about to lose his job to Daniel Jones, but he's young.
He's got a lot of runway there.
Yeah.
To improve.
Here's something.
Here's one of the most interesting parts of this draft to me. And, this is not necessarily new information from Adam Schefter that he put out there yesterday. But I am interested to see how this affects what teams, like in the middle of the first round and certainly in the late first round, do and how they approach their draft pick. He says, quote, multiple teams have said that the player who will be drafted at number 10 is the same quality as the player drafted at number 32. It'll be about each team's preference, but in the opinion of multiple personnel people, there's not a tremendous amount of difference. Like, it's an interesting draft from that standpoint. Of that's a pretty common thought that, like, basically when you get from, like, pick 8, 9, 10, all the way up to like the mid 40s from some people. It's like the same quality of player, according to these, personnel people, which you do not often see drafts break down that way.
Yeah, and we've talked about who told us the 15 to 75 thing again?
Charles.
I think that was Charles.
That was Charles, yeah. I mean, that's even more. Like, man, 15 to 75. Yeah, it's interesting. And then that would make you think that a bunch of teams that would love to bail out and get more picks, as opposed to, what you need if you're a team that wants to do that is you just need that one guy here or there that, this team has to have this guy right here, So, again, if you're the Titans at 35, maybe your guy is there. And so, okay, go do it. But maybe they luck out and there's somebody who really wants to get there, maybe for one of those quarterbacks, maybe for a Tyler Shuck or somebody like that who gets to the slips, gets into the second round, or, one of those receivers. That's where it gets interesting. Okay, we really want Burden, but you really want Burden. So how much do we want Burden as opposed to having another pick or two?
Here's another nugget from Schefter on the quarterbacks here, just to, add more logs of fire of just pure excitement of this quarterback class. Quote, at least one team does not have a first-round grade on any of the quarterbacks in this draft. And that would include Cam Ward.
Yeah.
The general manager of another team said that there are no surefire quarterback solutions, and the top-rated passer in this class, which is Ward, would be the 7th-rated passer in last year's class. And says, quote, and I don't think it's close, he added. Some teams and prognosticators have predicted 4 quarterbacks to go in round 1, but there are smart people around the league who believe there might only be 1 or 2 who go in the top 32 picks. There's Schefter. So one team doesn't have a first-round grade on any quarterback, and apparently this executive, personnel person, whoever, says Cam Ward would be the 7th-rated passer in last year's draft class.
Yeah, that's okay, so that would be behind, obviously it'd be behind Nick's, Penix, the top 3, right?
Right.
Who's 6?
That's what I was trying to figure out. It's like, all right, well, you had 5 go in the first round. You had 6 go in the first round, excuse me, with Williams, Daniels, May, Penix, McCarthy, and Bo Nix.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah, McCarthy in there.
Well, I mean, I feel like going into the draft, a lot of people would have Cam Ward above Bo Nix. I mean, who knows? I mean, I thought the whole Bo Nix thing was crazy, and look what I am as a personnel evaluator. But yeah, man, 7th, huh?
That's what they say.
That's what one guy said.
Now, granted, all of those that we've seen play to this point have been okay, been pretty good.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy hadn't played yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is last year's quarterback class, if you want to feel better about that, if you're a Titans fan, last year's quarterback class does look really good.
It does.
So you got that going for you.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Just a few days away from the NFL draft. We went through some interesting notes from Adam Schefter on the NFL draft front yesterday. We'll continue to break down some of that coming up next. Take your thoughts as well on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. It's time for the 4th annual 615 Open Charity Golf Tournament benefiting Folds of Honor presented by Gary Force Acura. We're going to be out there along with Fox 17, Outfront Media, and Social Indoor back at Hermitage Golf Course on Thursday, May 29th to make a difference while having a great time. You could join us and a few guest media members, athletes, and musicians as we raise money for Folds of Honor. Donations going to provide life-changing scholarships to families of America's fallen or disabled military and first responders. If you want more information, if you want to play, you want to sponsor, you can do all those things at 615open.com. So make sure you check that out. Taking your thoughts on the NFL draft, 615-737-1025. Let's head to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Jared in Spring Hill to the program. Jared, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, fellas. It's quite an honor to be talking to y'all on draft week. And I hate doing this, but I'm gonna do the whole the ask, answer, ask. And
okay.
I hate it, but I know it's lowercase journalism for Joe. I'm sorry, but
he'll get over it.
What is gonna be the headlines or the storylines after the Titans pick Cam Ward? Because it seems like we're sticking our necks out on a long reach with the consensus of where he's ranked compared to everybody else in his draft. So. Do you think, like, given the headlines, do you think they'll say that the Titans busted, they reached, the Titans don't have the infrastructure? Like, what do you think, like, once it's all said and done, the fallout will be? I'll hang up and listen. Hey, tighten up, baby.
Thank you, Jared. Appreciate it. Well, look, I mean, I think it depends on who's talking, right? Like, I mean, look, Louis Riddick got on TV a couple weeks ago and said that he thinks he's going to have the same impact as Patrick Mahomes. So, I mean, Louis Riddick probably pretty happy with the pick if the Titans go Cam Ward at number 1. I mean, look, the general consensus seems to be that he's probably like the 13th or 15th best prospect in the draft. Like, that's what the general consensus seems to be. We all know that quarterbacks get inflated in the draft. So, you know, frankly, if he ends up being a pretty good quarterback for the Titans and they feel good about the second contract when that comes around, I don't really care if there's like 8 or 9 players in the draft that are better than he is if he's a good quarterback for you. That's what makes that position so valuable. But of course, like I do think that some of the conversation after they draft him on Thursday, there will be people around the league that say, yeah, that's great. Good for the Titans. We knew that they were going to do that. It's not worth number 1 overall pick. I mean, that's happening now. So that will certainly happen after the draft.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. To me, the headline really is, like, can this guy save the Titans from, this era? I mean, I don't know. Era might be a little strong. They were the number 1 overall seed in the AFC in 21, but this stretch of misery.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are these guys are going to tie their careers to him. I mean, that really is what it is. So can Cam Ward just turn everything around? Will he end up being overdrafted? Yes. But like you said, quarterbacks are overdrafted all the time. He is the consensus top QB in this draft. And there's a lot of questions about the infrastructure and what's around him. Absolutely. The coach, the protection, the receivers, the defense.
There's probably you could probably do a shorter list of like questions that you don't have about the Titans around him, right? Like that's kind of the spot they're in. It's like,
but if he's great, then he can make all these people who right now don't look that smart look way smarter.
Of course.
And he can make this owner who, again, will probably pop up if it happens. They'll look like, okay, finally there was a plan. It made sense. It all led to this, I mean, if you end up hitting with this kid, it's just like a big burst of sunlight on everything. So that's, to me, is the headline. Is like, can Cam Ward turn this around? Can he save this franchise?
Ed on the text line says, if this quarterback class is viewed to be so bad, doesn't that raise Levis's trade value even a little? Could a team spend a 4th on him rather than choosing one of these quarterbacks? This is from Ed on the text line.
No,
I don't think so.
I mean, first of all, Ed, I mean, you know how it is, man. The unknown is undefeated, right? And so the known and the seen of Levis last year, I don't think that's going to get anybody spending a 4th round pick on him. Especially, again, what are we talking about? I understand 4th is outside the range we're talking about, but this is a draft where you want more picks. You want as many cracks at it in the top 100 plus, as I see our YouTube chat with Ian. Nice comment. Look at Ian's comment. Leave it to the Titans. They have the first overall pick in a bad draft, then only one other pick in the top 100 when everyone says that's where you want the picks.
Nice spot for them to be in.
Yeah. You're very right, Ian.
True Titan form right there.
It really is.
I mean, you couldn't have scripted it any better.
But if Cam Ward is great, then
it'll
it doesn't
be worth
matter.
it. Yeah.
That's right. So we'll see.
We'll see. Stilly was upset at us yesterday, Joe.
Oh, good.
He was talking about, Bill Polian came up again.
Uh-huh.
And we said yesterday, he's like, wow, Bill Polian sure comes up a lot on the Stilly show. And I guess he didn't like that. So he went on this thing about, Robby and Rexrode, I guess that they just don't care about these people who have actually done the job. And if, he got back into the Ted McMillan conversation. Like, Bill Polian says he'd never draft a wide receiver that didn't run a 4.51 or higher. So, I thought to myself, well, I wonder if Bill Polian ever drafted a wide receiver that ever ran a lower than a 4.5. And it turns out after a quick Google search, he did. Austin Collie got drafted by Bill Polian, and he ran a 4.55. So, I told that to Stilly, and he said, well, if you want to draft Ted McMillan on the third day, be my guest, because Austin Collie was a 4th-round pick. And I was like, well, is it a rule or is it not a rule?
When does the rule stop being a rule?
Apply? Does it apply only in the first or second round? Can you draft wide receivers that don't run faster than a 4.55 in like the or 4.51 in the 6th round? Like, when does that rule stop? I thought it was a rule, but apparently it's not.
A few things on this. One, let it be known again, you got mad at Stilly. You brought up Stilly, which is beautiful. And also, I like that you had this back and forth. And of course, he didn't read your stuff.
He didn't say a word about that.
He didn't read your stuff. Anything that's a counter to his point, he's not going to read on the air. Okay, so let's first of all let's talk about this real quick. Okay, Bill Polian. I have respect for Bill Polian. He had a great career. He also hasn't worked in the NFL since 2011.
Yeah.
So I think there is a difference, I would hope, between someone who's in it, who's doing that stuff. And again, I don't care that he's 82. That's not, that's fine. I mean, he's still like a valued voice out there, and I appreciate him. But I mean, he hasn't worked in the league in 15 years. So you think there's probably, there's value in his analysis, but also, like, I assume people working in the league have a lot more information, right? Like, that's how it should be.
I just want to know if it's a rule or not.
Well, there's that too. So, and by the way, if it is a rule, I think it's a dumb rule. I'm sorry. Like, I just think it's a dumb rule. Let's see. I mentioned Jerry Rice. He actually ran a 4.71. I apologize. I said 4.6 yesterday. Jerry Rice, greatest receiver of all time. Anquan Bolden, terrible 40 time. Chris Carter, terrible 40 time. Chad Johnson, terrible 40 time. DeAndre Hopkins, 4.57. Devontae Adams, 4.56. Cooper Kupp, 4.62. Mike Evans, 4.53. Allen Robinson, 4.60. Again, I know I'm coming up with specific examples, but that's a lot of them. Like, there's a lot to this. I heard Stilly say, the difference between Treylon Burks and A.J. Brown was that 40 rule. No, the difference is that A.J. Brown can play football and Treylon Burks can't play football, okay? It's not the 40 time, tiny little, like, it's just an overemphasis on this. How about great 40 times? Want to talk about great 40 times? Okay, I mean, I mentioned John Ross, who ran a 4.22. How about Darius Hayward-Bay? Blazing fast. Tavon Austin and Marquise Goodwin, J.J. Nelson. I mean, we can go through the list of incredible 40 times of guys who can't play either. Again, does it matter? Of course a 40 matters. Yes, it is. It's a valuable piece of information, but people put way too – and to me, I respect Bill Polian's career, but just to have that hard and fast rule and nothing, you can take everything else about a receiver out of the equation. So, he ran a 4.52. I'm out on this guy. I think that's bad. I think that's bad thinking. I think that's bad brain usage for a football person. But we respect Bill Polian.
Yeah, we do respect Bill Polian. I don't want it to come off like I think Bill Polian's some idiot or
no. I mean, we're just giving Stilly crap about constantly having Bill Polian, Thomas Dimitroff, and Rick Spielman quotes on his show.
Bill Polian,
wait, who's the guy?
It's like his Bill Callahan. He does the Bill Callahan from Titans fans. That's what he is with Bill Polian.
Bill Polian. We love you, Stilly.
I'm sure he'll love
Stop
us.
talking about it. Get our names out of your mouth.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The Vols have found a new quarterback, and it basically, Joe, is like the first actual trade in college football history. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, big bank muscle, small bank hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get it all. We'll have Adam Vingan coming up at 7 o'clock. He'll get his thoughts on where things stand with the Nashville Predators and head coach Andrew Burnett. Looking forward to that here in about 30 minutes. Joe, some developments last night in the world of college football. The Tennessee Volunteers have found another quarterback. Joey Aguilar, who was at Appalachian State last year, transferred to be the quarterback at UCLA. And now that Nico Iamaleava has landed at UCLA, is now the quarterback at Tennessee. So essentially what's happened here is there's been basically a quarterback trade. Nico Iamaleava ends up at UCLA. By the way, apparently his brother is going to end up at UCLA with him after he leaves Arkansas. And Joey Aguilar, the next quarterback at the University of Tennessee. Joe, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, so that's I did not realize this. So Madden has confirmed UCLA.
I don't know that it has been confirmed, but that is what the reporting suggests, that he is going to UCLA.
So we'll have both kids back home. Okay. Well, it was weird to me, the whole we're going to put another Iamaleava in the portal here this week, but
it's about the offense though.
Yeah, is it about that offense too? All the offenses. Here's the offense
like
we want.
Any offense except the one UCLA runs, apparently.
Can we play catch and then get drafted in the first round? That's the offense we'd like to have. Can we have that offense? So yeah, I'm seeing some Tennessee fan, I guess, lack of excitement about Joey Aguilar, which I get. I mean, basically, when this happened, and there's been reporting, by the way, around raises for a Big 12 quarterback.
Yep.
Not sure who. Raises for a couple Big 10 quarterbacks. Not sure who. I think Tennessee has tried to get in there with some QBs who, are established starters at other schools, and basically it failed. I mean, that's what it appears to be. That we're not able to pry anybody loose. So you settle for Joey Aguilar. Aguilar.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to get this done.
Iamaleava.
We're going to be okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Iamaleava. Aguilar.
Aguilar.
Dude. Okay. So this guy.
Joey A.
Yeah, Joey A. There you go. Nico Joey A. This guy, he was, not a huge recruit. Another California kid. I swear all the quarterbacks come out of California. Diablo Valley, JUCO. I think that's like JUCO. For a couple of years, big time production at Appalachian State, earned himself that opportunity at UCLA. Obviously, UCLA has been down bad, and they do have an exciting, one of the co-OCs from Indiana, Tino Sunseri, goes out to UCLA. They picked this kid up, and again, he had good numbers last year. I like the production. Like, I would take this guy over Steve Angeli from Notre Dame. I said that yesterday. There's someone who has played and has produced, as opposed to someone who has been in a good program but continues to get passed over every chance they get to pass him over.
Yeah.
But is this exciting? I mean, is this guy going to be able to come in, jump in with this offense over the summer, and be a better option at quarterback? I still would not be surprised at all if Jake Merklinger is the starter in week 1.
Well, this guy has 1 year of eligibility left. So Aguilar's got 1 year left of eligibility. In his career, he has thrown for 6,760 yards, 56 touchdowns the last 2 years at App State. So you've got a lot of experience there now, albeit at, clearly a lower level than what he's about to step into.
That's a good program.
But it's a good program. I mean, you're familiar with App State if you're a college football fan around here, and they've played some big time opponents. They played against Clemson last year, so he's played some big time football here. The NIL deal is interesting. So Chris Lowe put this out there last night. Says the deal that Aguilar is finalizing to go to Tennessee is similar financially to the deal that he had at UCLA. He had $1.2 million left at UCLA on his deal, and his new deal at Tennessee is close to that. So factoring in taxes, it'll be similar pay for Aguilar. He's already made more than $200,000 his first few months at UCLA. So, I mean, Tennessee saving a little money at the quarterback position there. We'll see if they go do something else with that.
That'll make fans feel better.
Yeah, I'm sure fans are
good,
really excited about that. But
so my talent fee is not being used this year? Okay.
But I do think, like, from the standpoint of 1 year of eligibility left, it's probably, in a perfect world, what Heupel was probably looking for, because I don't think it changes the equation on your quarterback room that way, right? Like, I mean, who knows? People change their mind all the time in college football, as we just saw. But like Merklinger and McIntyre, you still got them in the fold. If Aguilar's the starter, which I think he will be, like I think he'll end up being the starter here. It doesn't change. Like Merklinger was going to be the backup anyway heading into this year with Nico Iamaleava. So if he still is in line to be the starter next year, we'll see what that looks like. I think that's probably what they were looking for with the quarterback room that they have, and they don't want to like shuffle the deck too much there. But again, like if there's one thing I've learned through this process, yeah, let me know next fall when what their quarterback room looks like, because I imagine between Merklinger, McIntyre, and Faison Brandon coming in, at least one of those guys ain't gonna be here by the time next fall rolls around.
No question. Yeah, and you look at the Aguilar last year. Clemson, you mentioned, he's 18 for 41, 214, a touchdown, no picks. I don't love that he had a 55.9% completion percentage.
Correct.
That's a little low.
14 picks.
14 picks, a little high. He did run for 207 yards. Remember, in college football, sacks are taken out of your rushing total, which is different from the NFL.
Yeah.
So, he got sacked 15 times. So, it was plus 207, a couple touchdowns running the ball. He had some highly productive games. He also threw like 4 picks against Louisiana. It's not. I mean, it's not setting the world on fire. There's no question. You have taken a step down in talent level from Nico to Joey, but it's like, look, this is the situation. Obviously, they were not able to get anybody. We talked about Avery Johnson. I mean, apparently, lots of people have tried to get him away from K-State.
Apparently so.
Can't get that guy to Manhattan, Kansas, man. Once you get to Manhattan, Kansas, you just,
you never want to leave.
You don't want to leave Manhattan, Kansas. So it is settling, but at least it's another guy who has demonstrated the ability to play, who can compete. And, the more of that you have, the better. Right now, it's Merklinger with a true freshman. Again, I think McIntyre obviously is a tremendous talent, but you're asking a lot of a true freshman.
Yeah.
To really get in there and have a shot, I think, to start for this team this year.
Well, and if you're Merklinger, like, I think you still view this as you got a chance to go into fall camp and win a job here. Like, look, if I had to guess, Aguilar's probably going to be the starter, would be how I would approach it. But if you're him, like, you're the one that's been in the offense. You're the one that knows the system they're running. And look, we talked about this at the time. Now, some people took this way too far. In the moment that Nico walked out of there, was like, well, that's all right. We got Jake Merklinger. It's going to be fine. Like, this guy's unbelievable. It's like, well, and played a meaningful snap of college football yet. Let's see. But like the kid has talent. I mean, there's no doubt about that. He's a 4-star recruit. And I look, people before Nico even hopped in the portal, like there was noise around the program of they really like the progress that Merklinger's made. So if you're him, like, I think you just approach it and say, I'm going to go win this job in fall camp, and we'll see where it goes.
And also, if you're him, this is what I need to know. You know what you make. You are now getting the reports on what he's making.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I don't know. I would imagine he's been bumped up a little bit through all this.
Yeah. But it is really interesting with quarterback rooms and just basically the salary management now. Yeah. You get in a big recruit. Again, we saw it with Nico. Huge investment before he ever played it down in college football to bring him in. And everybody kind of knew what he was making. You're going to keep bringing these. I mean, I have to think Faison, commanded a good number, right?
You would think.
I mean, if you're Tennessee, you almost need at least one of these guys to leave, right? Like, gosh, we're paying 4 QBs right now, a pretty penny, but I'd love to know like what those guys are making at this point.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The Vols have found a new quarterback, Joey Aguilar from UCLA, coming over, and basically what amounts to a trade between the Vols and the Bruins. We'll take your thoughts on that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to see Stained and Breaking Benjamin at Bridgestone Arena this Sunday. Be caller number 4, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 4, win a pair of tickets to see Stained and Breaking Benjamin at Bridgestone Arena coming up this Sunday. Tennessee has found a new quarterback, Joey Aguilar, coming in from UCLA in what amounts basically to a trade between the Vols and the Bruins. Nico Iamaleava at UCLA. I got one texter, Joe, that says Aguilar should feel right at home playing behind a Sunbelt offensive line. Ellerby has to go.
Oh my goodness! Woo, zinger! Well, we can get in some Ellerby rips. You know, anytime we talk about Tennessee, like someone is going to bring
Vols
up
fans
Ellerby.
do not like Ellerby.
Yeah. Well, it's fair to wonder why they haven't. They've recruited pretty well. And I know now it's like, David Sanders is going to be an all-pro tackle immediately. Yeah. Let's pump the brakes on that. But he's a big, big story here for them, his development. And, they've got to have more homegrown guys who become good SEC offensive linemen.
One thing I'm interested, like, now that they've got the quarterback, do they go looking for more help at receiver to add in the portal this offseason? Sparks has come out with a piece at the Knoxville News Sentinel about some players that they could target, which include, there's Keelan Marion at BYU. There's some guys that are out there in the portal that you could go grab. Nobody that's going to, knock your socks off if you're Tennessee. Now, Tennessee, they've got Mike Matthews on their roster. They did go get Amari Jefferson, who was the Alabama transfer last year. Or they did that earlier this offseason. They still got Brazel there. You've got Boo Carter, who's apparently going to take some snaps on the offensive side of the ball. So, I know they're really excited about a kid like Braylon Staley, who got in the playoff game last year. So they have some guys, but they could probably use another body at least in that receiver room.
Yeah, makes sense. They got to move quickly. The portal window closes Friday. A lot of stuff happening this week.
Yep. Well, they've lost some offensive linemen this week as well. Now, I don't think anybody that's going to be huge impact,
but depth,
and you probably need to go grab one of those as well. So I'm interested to see what else now that you've landed the quarterback, as you said. I mean, you've got until Friday. It's Tuesday, so still some more work to do from Heupel and company on that front to see what's left. And also, like, it's probably too late at this point. Like, I don't think you're going to see like Mike Matthews or anything hop back in the portal on Tuesday when the portal window closes.
Knock on something
on
there,
Friday.
buddy.
But I'm just saying, like, I do wonder. One thing we wondered about when Nico left was, all right, who do they go get at quarterback? And when they get this person, how do the receivers view that? So we'll see.
Yeah, like you bet. I mean, until it closes, you mentioned Mike Matthews. You probably don't totally exhale, But the whole thing with Matthews, it was obviously like Nico, push for him, right? And he was, I think, basically push for him to get more money, right? And obviously,
got it.
Mike Matthews wanted to play with Nico. So I guess if there's just no rumbling there, maybe that means he feels good about Merklinger. I mean, I guess you could say, no, he was about to leave, and then Aguilar showed up, and everything's fine. But again, right now, I'm making a prediction. My prediction is that Merklinger is our starter week 1.
Okay.
That's my prediction. And maybe it is a situation at some point where an Aguilar could be like, Hendon Hooker at some point in the middle of the 2020, early in the 2021 season, and he ends up being the better option. But I think, there's probably a bit of a learning curve here ahead for him.
Well, now that we know what their quarterback room is for the moment, what do you make of what this season could be for Tennessee? And look, I said it last week when Nico left. I don't feel like they're a college football playoff team right now. And I don't know that I felt like they were when Nico was the quarterback. So I certainly don't feel that way now. How do you view what they have and what this means for their bottom line?
I agree. I think that they were a college football team in 2025 because Nico became that dude. And it all came together for him. And it's like, oh, is he going to the league now? That type of season. And so obviously that's all out the window. So look, there are enough guys coming up, good recruits who we haven't seen, the talent on the roster, that there could be 5 to 7 guys that right now we're not talking about who emerge, and it's possible. I still think on their schedule, I like 8 wins, but 10, I think you're asking for some things to develop that we just can't foresee right now.
Their over-under before all this went down on the FanDuel Sportsbook was 9.5 wins. It is now 8.5, so they've gone down a win on the over-under.
Sounds about right.
Which makes some sense. I mean, look, the one thing, you look at their schedule, it's not an overly daunting schedule on the conference side of things. Now, look, I mean, you still have Alabama. You still have Georgia. We'll see what Florida looks like this year. I mean, they hadn't won in Florida since I was, 10, 11 years old. I'm 32.
And Florida's got a dude at QB.
They've got a dude.
A guy.
Yeah, he could be really good. So, I mean, we'll see what that looks like. But they've got some manageable games on their schedule. But, like, right now, they kind of seem to me like that's probably where I'd put it. Like, they seem like a 7-8 win football team to me, which, again, gets back to what we started on last week of, everybody was all riled up when Nico left.
Make a stand.
Heupel was probably as popular with the fan base then as he's been at any point during his tenure as Tennessee coach. Is that energy still going to be there when and if they go 7-5, 8-4 this year?
Yeah,
that's going to be the question.
Yeah, it'll lose a little steam. There'll be a little less energy along those lines. But it's, to me, you have to keep things in perspective. It was a tough spot that they were in. I can't blame the decision to not basically cave in, and allow that to the way that they were trying to go about things. I can't blame that, but unfortunately, yes, it may cost them on the field significantly. One thing that's interesting too about the whole Nico thing, I don't know if anybody noticed this, but I have only seen positive responses from his teammates to him. For the record, for anybody who wants, this guy's a selfish turd, blah, blah, blah. I mean, again, what they did, Team Nico, is stupid, incredibly stupid, bad overplay. But I've only seen Vol's teammates who, like, it's just been all outpouring of love for him from at least on social media. And usually in something like this, I mean, usually there's somebody who's like, GTFO, don't let the door hit you where the Lord split you or whatever, something like that. I saw none of this.
I haven't seen any posts like that from Miles Kitselman, who seems to be still very upset.
That's true. Kitselman did have a little, yeah. I mean, look, I'm sure a lot of those guys, they should be upset, right, about the way it all went down. I also think a lot of those guys understand his situation and probably just like, man, at some point you got to tell your dad to shut up.
Yeah, exactly.
But he didn't.
Exactly. Adam Vingan will be with us coming up next. We'll get into where things stand with Predators coach Andrew Brunette with him. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Adam Vinkin from DVD, which you can hear today, beginning at 10 o'clock. Excuse me, 11 o'clock. Sorry. I don't know why I got my hours mixed up, like I'm on Mountain Time. But I'm on Central Time.
It is 10 o'clock Mountain Time.
It is 10 o'clock Mountain Time. So if you're listening in Colorado, fire it up.
Or Colorado.
Don't do that again.
Colorado.
Don't do that again.
I'm just telling you.
Adam, good morning. How are you?
Good. Glad to know you listen to the product.
I do. I listen to the product. I just do it at 11 a.m. Central Time.
Yeah,
not Mountain Time.
Robby has the station on all day long. So, just one glorious show bleeding into another. Culminating with, with the best of all.
Yeah, culminating with the Bill Polian hour at the end of the program later in the day. So look forward to that.
Rick Spielman.
You're shortchanging the Bill Polian hour. It's actually the Bill Polian 3.5 hours.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he put some work in with Bill Polian.
God, he has gotten
us this
to
will make him mad all over.
I know he's gotten us to rip poor Bill Polian.
You guys yesterday.
He was.
Did you hear that?
We talked about it.
Oh, he was very upset
about it. Robby got mad at him. And by the way, Keith called me an ageist earlier.
We respect Bill Polian on the show.
I absolutely, like I said, him being 82 has nothing to do with this. Him being out of the league for 15 years, a little bit.
So, Adam, obviously, it's a big week on a lot of fronts. Got the draft coming up. Tennessee's just found a quarterback, and in the middle of it all, you have Andrew Brunette's future up in the air with the Nashville Predators. So, as we sit here today on Tuesday, April 22nd, what's your read on where things currently stand with Andrew Brunette, where this could be headed?
I'm not as confident as I was at the end of last week that he will be back. Robby, you texted me your tweet with Jonathan Marchessault's answer to your question about Brunette's system and any adjustments that Marchessault would like to see Brunette make. And after I read it, my first thought was, oh boy. Then I heard it. Then I heard what Steven Stamkos said. Then I listened to what Andrew Brunette said. And, it reads to me like a situation in which a coach does not know if he is coming back. With Brunette specifically, there were two things that struck me about his news conference. One was that answer to the question about his job security, in that final line about, if I'm told otherwise, I'm confident that I can keep doing this somewhere else. The other thing was he did it by himself. And maybe I'm reading too much into that, but a year ago when the Predators were eliminated in the playoffs by the Canucks, Brunette and Barry Trotz did their season-ending news conference together. So the fact that he did it alone stood out to me. So I was never 100% certain that he was returning. I heard Jared yesterday say that he had guaranteed that Brunette was going to return. Now it's at around 55%. I mean, I think it's a 50-50 proposition. I certainly, understand that the Predators, are an organization that likes continuity. I mean, which organization does not like continuity? But the Predators on the loyalty scale are on one end of the spectrum. They are loyal to a fault. And firing Andrew Brunette after 2 seasons would be, or is it 2 seasons or 3 seasons? It's 2 seasons, right?
Two.
Firing Brunette after 2 seasons would be an acknowledgement by Barry Trotz that he made a mistake. So that's something that you have to keep in mind as well. So all told, if I thought heading into Friday that, yeah, he's probably going to come back. Now I'm like, I'm not so sure about that.
What did you make of in particular, the Marchessault comments?
I will certainly not criticize him for making those comments. I obviously have not had an opportunity to get to know Jonathan Marchessault, but what I know of him, as he said in that clip that Robby played and we played on our show, he's never been one to bite his tongue. And you have to like that, in our business, right? We can't criticize hockey players for being boring. And then when someone says something even remotely controversial, say, can he say that? He can't say that. You can't do that. You can't have it both ways. So you juxtapose what Marchessault said to what Steven Stamkos said when asked the same question. And Stamkos, being a longtime captain, he had a more captainly, diplomatic response. I likened Marchessault's comment yesterday to being in a relationship, a new relationship, and your new partner constantly brings up their ex. Like, my ex used to do this. My ex used to do that. I'm like, well, we're in a relationship now. I don't want to hear about your ex. And that's what Marchessault did at the end when he was talking about Bruce Cassidy, who, of course, is the Golden Knights coach. So that's the sort of the vibe I got. I mean, I don't think anything he said was incorrect, but Marchessault, not being one to sugarcoat things, said it in a way that captured people's attention. Stamkos, again, he said similar things, but he said it in a way that is more fitting of someone who was a captain for, more than a decade or however long it was with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So I've got no problems with what Marchessault said, but the central question that Barry Trotz needs to answer is, does Andrew Brunette have the respect of his veteran players? Do those veteran players have faith in Brunette to make the necessary adjustments to get this team back on the right track? And when you hear two of your three marquee free agents seem to question the way that the coach does things, it has to make you think.
So let's say they get through this, and whenever Barry Trotz has his press conference this week, he comes out there and says, we're keeping Andrew Brunette. He's going to be our coach next year. What's your selling point if you're Barry Trotz to the fan base for next season that this can turn around quickly?
That's a good question. I'm not sure exactly what that selling point would be. It's hard to sell the fact that your team finished in 30th place. It was the second worst season in franchise history by points percentage. Relative to expectations, they were the most disappointing team in the league. They underperformed their projected point total by 30 points. I believe their over-under point total at the start of the season was 98.5, and they finished with 68.
Yep.
So they missed the playoffs by, I think, 28 points behind the Blues, who had the second wild card spot. I mean, I don't know how you sell that. I think if I'm Barry Trotz, if you are attempting to sell that decision, you have to fall on the sword. You have to take almost all of the responsibility. You would have to say, look, I underestimated, and he has said things to this effect. He would have to say, I underestimated how long it was going to take for these legacy players to acclimate to our system. I made a mistake by thinking that Tommy Novak could be a second line center in the league, and I didn't address the center position enough. You would have to take, I think, almost full responsibility for setting up Brunette to fail by the roster decisions he made. Outside of that, I'm not sure exactly how you would sell bringing Brunette back after this terrible season.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of, we know that you're not going to be able to do much with this roster, right? I mean, with the veterans, I mean, we've talked about, is it possible to move a Marchessault? Is there some kind of trade that we can't envision that could happen and really change the math? For the most part, these guys are coming back, right? So I guess, if you're not changing coaches, then what is the adjustment other than just hoping a lot of guys have much better years next year than they had this year?
Yeah. Derek made an interesting analogy a few weeks ago when we were talking about this on our show. And he talked about, imagine if you are an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, and you have a scheme that's worked for you, and you go to a team and that scheme isn't working. And the head coach or the GM tells you, hey, man, we've got to tweak your system. We've got to tweak your scheme. And Derek said, if I'm that OC or I'm that DC, if I say to them, look, you hired me because you liked my scheme. And if you ask me to change my scheme so much that it's unrecognizable, why am I even here? Why am I even your offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator if you're making me change fundamentally who I am as a coach? And that's what I'm wondering about with Brunette. It sounds like Brunette did make adjustments over the course of the season, but they clearly didn't work. So if I'm Brunette, I'm not saying that Brunette's going to quit or anything like that. But if I'm Brunette, I'm wondering, if I have to make so many adjustments that the system that got me to this point is no longer functional. What am I supposed to do? And that's something that I think that Barry Trotz has to wonder as well, because Trotz is culpable in this as well. And he signed those players to those contracts, and those players are probably going to be around longer than the coach. So I think that's what he has to weigh is, does he have faith in Brunette to make adjustments, but maintaining his identity as a coach, or do they need a fresh set of eyes? And we've already seen a lot of coaching changes around the league. I'm anticipating more. There are some interesting names out there. Is there a name out there that we aren't expecting to be available, that if they become available, that makes Trotz want to act? I mean, that's Rick Tocchet is an interesting situation in Vancouver. The Canucks are not picking their team up. They have a team option for his contract. They said yesterday they're not picking it up, and they hope to renegotiate. But if Tocchet and the Canucks decide, hey, this isn't going to work, would Trotz say, I can get Rick Tocchet, for example? That's something that we also have to keep in mind.
Hey, Lobby's out there. Oh, reunion
You
tour?
had a caller the other day who suggested they bring back Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley, and I texted Robby and I said that person should be banned from the program.
Wow.
Ryan, they should.
Ryan in Nashville, you're banned.
You know who else floated the possibility to me about bringing back Peter Laviolette if he owned the team? One Jared Stillman.
I'm sure he did.
Oh, I bet. Think of all how many more posters you could get autographed.
Adam, great stuff. Thank you for being with us today. We'll be listening at noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain. Got my times down, Pat.
Screwing people up. Listen at 11 o'clock.
There you go.
If you're in Nashville, listen at 11 o'clock.
9 Pacific, 6 Hawaii time.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye, guys.
Sorry about Duke.
Adam Vinkin, our guest here on the program. A couple thoughts that Adam threw out there I want to react to, plus a situation that is brewing in the NFL. It could be interesting to see how this ends. We'll get into all that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Carl Taylor, I saw our guy
Tune in today to 102.5 The Game for Vanderbilt baseball as the Commodores take on MTSU at Hawkins Field. Pregame at 5:45. First pitch at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Also, make sure you check out this week's Nashville's Best Deal. It's Fog Street Lawn Club, Nashville's premier soccer pub and rooftop. Fog Street Lawn Club offers scrumptious bites, British lawn bowling, and premier soccer pub vibes. Get half off a $30 gift card at thegamenashville.com/deals and dive into the ultimate rooftop experience. Appreciate Adam Vingan for being with us in the last segment. Going to be interesting to see what the Predators do here in the next day or two. We'll see if there's any decision made on the Andrew Burnett front by the time Barry Trotz hops up at the podium.
Vingan kind of on the same page with us. Some of the discourse is sort of ho. Yeah. Wait a minute. What is going to happen here?
It's going to be interesting to see.
We're not manufacturing drama like the NFL wants done with the number 1 overall pick.
The Tocchet part is interesting. Like, what if Tocchet gets away from Vancouver? Could Barry Trotz make a push for that? It'd be interesting to see how that situation ends up. You had Dan Bilesma, who has been the head coach of Seattle for 1 year, get fired yesterday. So we know what this league is. People get fired all the time in this league. So we'll see what happens on the Andrew Burnett front. Keep you updated on that. Joe, I want to get to this because there is a somewhat loose Nashville connection here that people have asked about. So let's address it. Michael Silver from The Athletic has put this out there as it relates to the San Francisco 49ers, talking about the offseason program beginning today. And there's uncertainty about who's going to be there. Brock Purdy's looking for a new contract. Fred Warner, the linebacker, is looking for a new contract. And George Kittle is looking for a new contract. And all those guys, there's a question as to whether or not it's going to happen. I feel like Purdy's going to get done. And Silver says that there's been progress toward Purdy that will pay him more than $50 million a year. Question is how much progress and does he show up today? Fred Warner and the 49ers have yet to have any substantive talks about a possible extension, according to Silver, but the veteran team leader is likely to report. George Kittle is heading into the final year of a 5-year, $75 million deal and is much more of a long shot as he and the 49ers remain far apart in discussions about a new deal. So we've seen it in San Francisco. Deebo Samuel got traded. Brandon Ayuk last year was on the doorstep of getting traded, and then it didn't. He gets the contract and immediately gets hurt. Yeah. Kittle's 31. I think he turns 32 in October. So he's got 1 year left on the deal. I'm interested, like, how far does this go? Like, if San Francisco is not interested in extending him, does it get to the point where he tries to force his way out? And of course, Joe, people have started talking about that around the league.
Darn right.
We know that he lives here and he goes to like basically every Predators game when he's in his offseason. So now the question has come up. Could the Titans make a push for George Kittle?
I mean, your thoughts. If the Preds wouldn't have sucked this year and they were in the playoffs right now, he'd be going to all the playoff games and it'd be even more likely. He'd be like, I can't leave.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have any hockey games to go to anymore. Could this be Delaney Walker part 2?
Well, I bring this up not necessarily specifically for Kittle, even though that's what it would be in this situation. But look, I've been talking about it for a couple. Like they got to find tight end. Like, at some point they're going to have to find a tight end that is better than Chig Okonkwo and Josh Wiley. And, no disrespect to those guys. They are serviceable NFL players, but neither one of those guys are anything close to high-level tight ends in the National Football League. Now, again, based on where the Titans are right now, I don't know that I've got any interest whatsoever in, like, trading for George Kittle. Like, I'm not giving up assets to go get George Kittle when he's 31 years old and will be 32 in October. He can still play. Like, he's still a heck of a combo tight end when it comes to the blocking and receiving part of it.
Oh yeah, when he's healthy, and he's out there, he's still tremendous football player.
You're looking for how can you help your quarterback as quickly as possible? Like, that needs to be, if you're drafting Cam Ward, which it looks like they are, how do you get him help as soon as possible is probably something I'd be looking at if I'm Mike Borgonzi and Chad Brinker and the Titans decision makers. Again, I don't love the idea of the Kittle part of this specifically just because of his age. He has been, there have been some injuries that he's dealt with. And frankly, he's got a year left on his contract, and I'm not all that interested in trading for him. So forget the Kittle part of it specifically right now. We were just asked about it, so I figured I'd bring it up. But they got to go. They need to go find a tight end at some point here to help their quarterback.
They do, and yeah, maybe things don't work out, and he wants to hit, and he ends up on the market in a year. That might be, and then again, who knows what we'll be talking about with the Titans? Are we talking about, wow, actually, they're not that far from at least being, a decent team, a playoff team, whatever. They could. I mean, it's a kind of a running joke on the whole. Well, this guy has a house here, and this guy was building here. Like everybody has a house here, but he's
visible.
A Nashvilleian.
Yeah,
he's a legit Nashvilleian. So I actually think if he thought, if you're him, and it's like, wow, that Cam Ward had a heck of a rookie year. He looks promising, and there's actually some hope there with that franchise, and maybe the help for Cam Ward at least a year could be in the form of George Kittle. But to your point, before then, they've got to bolster that room for sure.
It's going to be interesting. Like San Francisco, Deebo Samuel's gotten away from him. Ayuk, we'll see what he looks like this year coming off the injury that he had. But, I mean, they're about to give Brock Purdy a lot of money. And one of the things that's been, like, I think Purdy is a good player, independent of everything he's got. But, I mean, you can't deny that for the majority of his career to this point, he has had an unbelievable situation around him. He's had a fantastic offensive line. He's had an unbelievable running game with Christian McCaffrey being healthy. Ayuk, Samuel, George Kittle. I mean, the situation for him, Kyle Shanahan calling plays, the situation has been great. So, like, if this continues to deteriorate for him around him the way it has over the last year, I'm very interested to see what type of quarterback he is.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out just how good he is. Weston Clarksville says, our tight end problem has been because of the offensive line. Offensive line can't block their guys, so tight end has to be blocker. I mean,
I think it's a little deeper than that.
Yeah, I don't,
I don't think the Chig is on the doorstep of becoming an all-pro now if they fix their offensive line.
I don't think Chig's issue is that he's held in too often on third down. I mean, again, the one change in season where you definitely saw production nosedive was Jonnu Smith when Taylor Lewan had his ACL.
Yep.
In 2020, but I think Chig's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
But can you do better than that? You got to have more depth, regardless.
615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. We're going to hear from the Titans today in their pre-draft press conference. What will they say? Will Cam Ward be brought up by name? Will they avoid him like the plague? It'll be interesting to see what happens there. We'll get into that coming up next. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode at 7:45. Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic will be with us at 8:30 talking all things NFL draft as well. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight as the Nashville Sounds take on Durham at First Horizon Park. Pregame beginning at 6:20, first pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, brought to you by First Horizon. Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up here in just a few minutes at 7:45. Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic will be with us at 8:30. We'll get into all things NFL draft with him. So looking forward to that. The Titans are, according to the countdown, Joe, 59 hours and 26 minutes and 53 seconds away from being on the clock as the NFL draft begins on Thursday. So we're getting closer by the second. The pre-draft press conference with Chad Brinker, Mike Borgonzi, and Brian Callahan will be at 1 o'clock today here in Nashville. So the pre-draft press conference with those three members of the Tennessee Titans is today. Joe, as we sit here just hours away from the pre-draft press conference, what do you think we're going to learn today? Will they avoid talking about Cam Ward directly? Will they even bring his name up? Will they act like he doesn't exist? What are our expectations for what we'll learn today?
I have no idea.
Very nice.
It was so nice that you
muted myself
in your response. Yeah, I don't know. We've had some interesting ones of these. We did have the John Robinson. I don't anticipate trading A.J. Brown, right? Wasn't that the way he phrased it? Or was it even stronger than that? He said something along those lines.
I think that was right.
I don't anticipate that.
Yes. I can't believe that. I can't remember if that was him or Vrabel who said that precisely.
I think it was John. Yeah, I think it was Robinson. So, obviously that was a very eventful draft week.
Yep.
Draft lead up and draft night. Will they talk specifically? Well, I mean, I think you can ask him about Cam Ward. They're not going to answer directly. If anybody asks a question, have you decided to draft Cam Ward? Or I don't think they'll give that answer. But certainly I think that more talk of Cam Ward is on the table, right?
I would assume they are. I mean, look, somebody just sent this in on the text line. I saw this floating out there earlier. Not that this is some huge surprise, but like Ian Rappaport put it out this morning, and he said, after months of speculation, the consensus around the league is the Titans will stay at number 1 and pick rather than trade. Sources say, no surprise, decision made. There was real trade interest, but as one team said, quote, they never opened the door. All eyes on Cam Ward. So, I mean, that's basically Rappaport saying, like, they're drafting Cam Ward, the decision's made,
right,
and they've never really seriously considered listening to trade offers at that point.
See,
so
yeah. But I still would like to know if a great trade, did they ever get any great ones?
I don't know.
I
don't know. But, like,
there's a question for today.
My expectation is, like, Brinker and Borgon, they're still going to get up there today. Well, we'll see what happens at number 1 overall, and not, it's a TV show. I've talked about that many times. They're not just going to come out there and say that Cam Ward is the pick, but I mean, the reporting around all of it right now is Cam Ward is the pick and that it's final, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
So I think definitely the questions around helping a rookie quarterback, a plan for a rookie quarterback, the playing plan for the rookie quarterback. I mean, all these things. Look, all these questions are going to get asked again Thursday after they pick Cam Ward, and it's like, okay, now that you have Cam, but I mean, so the strategy. I'm interested to hear what they think about the whole idea that the world is flat from about mid first round to mid third round. And do they evaluate it that way? And if so, how much of a premium do they put on trying to get another pick in the? I mean, they've already said it. Brinker has said that they want the X amount of top 100 picks. This seems like a great year to get another 1 or 2 if you can possibly do it. Also interested to, I think a Snead question's worthwhile today.
Yeah, for sure.
Just sort of where are you guys with that? Where is he with his health? By the way,
I would love to know, and I don't know if they would even answer this or not, but like if all things are equal, let's say you have the same evaluation of a receiver and an edge rusher, and you got them rated exactly the same. Where would you go? Like, would you lean toward, all right, let's bring in the receiver and help our quarterback that we're drafting? Or do you look at your defense and say, I have no clue at the moment who's rushing the passer. Let's go do that. Let's go get that guy. I would love to know what their answer to that is. If they're rated exactly the same, which rarely happens, but if they are, which way are you going? Receiver or edge rusher?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I would like to know that answer too. I think a lot of people would assume, well, you're drafting a QB who doesn't have many good receivers, doesn't have many receivers at all. It's obviously got to be the receiver, right? But you could still make the case that an actual defense also does help a quarterback. It helps
That'd be nice
a
for
lot.
The defense get off the field every now and then.
Yeah.
Get the ball to the quarterback.
Yeah, no, that helps. So I would guess that the answer, like I said, if it's actually like they're basically equal in your eyes as overall prospects, I would think that the receiver would win out, but maybe not. That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, to put it shortly, I don't think we're going to learn a whole lot today from the Titans. Like, this is a situation where they're going to get up there. Like, I saw Brian Gutekunst get up there yesterday from the Packers. He's their GM, and he talked for, I don't know, probably like 15 minutes and said, I think nothing throughout the whole thing. Like, it's a skill. Like, some of these general managers have a skill where they just get up there and it's just word salad that eventually ends up not really having anything of substance to it whatsoever.
Yeah. So I don't know that. I assume that these pressers are part of the league mandated press availabilities.
I would assume so.
Yeah. Probably some of the least favorite of these guys, because it's just like,
Oh,
please
good.
let us get in here, do our stuff, throw out a little misinformation through back channels, and, then we'll talk to you after we make our picks.
Yeah. Well, look, one thing that is interesting is, Brinker got up there a few months ago and talked about how important draft picks were. We got to get all the draft picks we can get, and we want, a certain amount of top 100 picks, and we'd like to get all these draft picks. Well, we know they're not doing that in one. Like, you're not trading back and getting picks that way.
That'd be the way.
35.
Be a good way.
I still, I know that Titans fans just assume that you can trade back at 35. It really depends on who's there. Like, you got to have a trade partner and somebody willing to come up and make that move. So you may be forced to pick at 35. And are you okay with sitting around basically from pick 35 to pick 103 in a draft where apparently you could find a lot of the same type quality of players right in those picks, like right between those picks. So that part of it's going to be really interesting. Deep down, I think they probably would like to trade back and pick up an extra pick there, but will they be able to do it is a totally different question.
Yeah. To me, the best bet is, again, there's always whoever, whatever, a Burden or somebody, but I think the best bet is somebody loves Tyler Shuck or whatever and thinks that they need to get there to get him. Something like that. Yeah, it's certainly no guarantee. And if everybody feels the same way about this draft and the overall talent in it, then that makes it harder to trade back probably. See from Franklin, dead on here, says, talking about Cam Ward is officially boring. Let's talk about Cam Scadaboo. He will be a Titans legend.
Your boy.
I'm with you, See if they can get in the third round, man. I mean, realistically.
You want to take him at 35?
Yeah, I mean, I'm here for taking him at 1, but realistically, they can get in the third round. And again, I understand if they were to actually take a running back there with their third pick in the draft, it'd be like, of all the things
I think PK might.
Oh, he would absolutely lose his bleep. But people melted down when they picked Derrick Henry, I would just like to point out. They had just made the trade for DeMarcus. They did. And what the hell are you doing drafting Derrick Henry? I mean, I'll raise my hand. I was a little bit puzzled by it. There's probably a Tennessean column you could find from them where I was like, that's a weird one. But gosh, it worked out okay, didn't it?
The long line of Titans Oilers running backs from Earl Campbell to Eddie George, Chris Johnson to Derrick Henry
to Cam
Scadaboo.
That's right.
The next one.
Hey, I'm telling you, man. Dude is going to be an absolute beast in this league for somebody.
Devin from Dover saying, what do you guys think about Dante Thornton out of Tennessee? As somebody who watched a lot of Dante Thornton, there's a lot about him that's tantalizing, right? Like the size and the speed combo, you just don't find a whole lot. The guy cannot stay healthy, and he barely caught the football in college. That's the weird thing to me. So, I mean, look, is it impossible for him to go to the league and figure things out and stay healthy and with the athleticism that he's got, be an impact player? No, it's not impossible. I would be very hesitant on that. That's just
me too. Very. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of Dante Thornton. Do you guys think James Pierce goes in the first round?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
Exactly where he's going. He's going 32 to Philadelphia. Write it down.
The all SEC defense.
That's where he's going.
Of undervalued players. And I don't know. I just saw. I think it was Brugler's mock had him going like 55 or something like that.
There's no way.
Like, or 52. So, I can't believe it either.
32. That's where he's going. Philadelphia. You print the jersey. He's going to be the next member of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, man. Yeah, so they'll get him, and the Chiefs will get who? They'll get, like, Luther Burden.
Yeah, the Chiefs will get Burden, and that'll be fun.
All fair.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode is coming up next. We'll have Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic, NFL draft expert, coming up at 8:30. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
So when I hear Joe Rexrode act like, why do we have to hear Bill Polian? We need to stop running Bill Polian cuts.
Bill Polian!
Just ask yourself this question. Who knows more about football? You or Bill Polian? Who knows more about the Force? You or Master Yoda?
Luke, I am your father.
Well, Jerry Rice didn't run this.
You settle for Joey Aguilar.
Aguilar.
Yep. We're going to get this done.
Iamaleava.
We're going to be okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Iamaleava. Aguilar.
Aguilar.
Dude. Okay.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every day of the week. Is this the Blink-182 cover, the Journey song? That's so awesome.
Sure is, yeah.
Oh, we ought to just let this go.
Oh, good. Let's listen to Blink-182 also talk about a place that doesn't exist, South Detroit.
There's not a south part of Detroit.
Well, no, I mean that's called
it's called nowhere. There's no South Detroit anywhere.
Well, no, but no, like no one says South Detroit. It's downriver. So okay. Whatever, it's fine. Right. It's fine. You know,
in a van down by the river.
South does not exist in Michigan.
But you know what I mean. Like
there's no such thing.
Do we say South Nashville?
Yes, some people do live in South Nashville.
Do we say West Nashville?
Yes.
We say West End.
Yeah, East Nashville, West Nashville.
You know what I mean.
I'm just saying, we'd say those things.
I've never heard anybody say West Nashville.
Really?
No, the West.
West. You've been around here long enough.
Well, I mean, I've been around here a decade, which means I'm basically born of the earth here.
That's true.
You know. So thanks for bringing up Stilly. I do also just a quick add on to that whole thing. And again, we respect Bill Polian.
we do. Okay? I need to feel like we need to make that clear.
Rick Spielman and Thomas Dimitrov. And who else are still these guys? Michael Lombardi, who now is Belichick's GM, who was I don't know, guys. That plane from Green Bay. But I mean, he's a GM. He used to be a GM. No, he doesn't know about the plane from Green Bay. Yeah. Why didn't he know about the plane from Green Bay? Yes, that makes him an expert on potential hijinks on a random plane in November.
Underutilized word, hijinks.
Thanks.
Nice.
But another point I would like to make on that whole thing is, I think there is a fair point that Jared makes there about people saying, well, these guys are idiots and they've been GMs in the league. Also, when you do what we do, sit here and gas bag on the radio, and then you're like, you got people in NFL organizations who have spent their entire lives playing high school football, playing college football, playing pro football, being an NFL scout, being an NFL front office, and you say they're idiots who don't know ball. Maybe you need to have a little bit of self-awareness. Huh? Can we try that? This wasn't even supposed to be what I was talking about today. I forgot now. Oh, yeah. I gotta rip Nico a little bit more. I know that we've talked about Nico. Okay. I mean, we've talked about Nico a lot. And for the most part, I've been pretty I think sympathetic to Nico. But let me say, man, Nico, and I'm talking about Nico Harrison, said yesterday that, I knew that the Mavs fans liked him. I didn't know quite how much they liked him until this trade.
I didn't know that Luka was popular here.
Like, I've kind of just watched this from afar as everybody has just trashed this dude. And look, he's got a chance here to be known. We'll see. I mean, Luka's I understand he's he's a great player. He's a franchise player for the Lakers moving forward. They got to win championships. Like, you got to win championships. And also it's got to go poorly for the Mavs. Like, we don't know what's going to happen there. Houston Texans at one point looked absolutely decrepit, and the Browns were getting, they got him. They got Deshaun. And we saw, like, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But right now, I got to agree with Charles Barkley last night. Charles Barkley, I think it was halftime of the Pistons-Knicks game, or maybe it was after he's like, I'm friends with Nico. Okay. I got a lot of love for him. Please don't do any more press conferences. Stop doing press conferences.
Don't speak.
Yeah, this is the exact quote. Quote, I did know that Luka was important to the fan base. I didn't quite know it to what level, end quote.
That's good.
No, that's good.
That's good.
Someone compared it to someone on X compared it to, yeah, we stopped serving chicken at KFC. I knew that our customers like chicken. I just didn't know how much they like chicken.
Know how important that
How about
was.
some of these nice watery mashed potatoes? Poor Nico.
Hey, biscuits there are pretty good. No free ads. You're getting cooked on the text line right now.
I am?
By the way. Just
I'm getting
absolutely roasted.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Got Jacob, born in Nashville, West End and West Nashville, two completely different places.
That's true.
And somebody else says,
Okay.
dude, who
All right.
doesn't call it West Nashville? Everyone I know calls it that and has for years. Joe, are you drunk? There's definitely a West Nashville.
Okay. All right.
You're
I
getting smoked on
apologize.
here.
That's fine. It's fair. It's totally fair. But I will tell you what I do know. There is no freaking South Detroit. No one has ever called any place in the world South Detroit other than Journey in this 1981 song, which is a pretty good song. But
They were born
it's
and raised
overplayed.
there.
They
must
were.
know.
They were born and raised in that place. Born and raised in South Detroit. Are you trying to rob them of what they say?
Journey's from like Cali.
I'm just
Just
saying.
tell you what
that's
song says.
That's what they say in the song.
Oh, she's just a city girl, born in, or no,
City
just
boy.
a city born and raised in South Detroit.
Born and raised.
It's just not a place. Like, I don't know. I guess maybe some cities, if you tell me, because I definitely hear North Nashville and East Nashville. I haven't personally heard a lot of people say South Nashville or West Nashville.
You're getting cooked.
That's fine. Cook me. It's fair. But I'm telling you, and I know this, there is not a South Detroit. They don't. No one calls anything South Detroit. It's downriver. I'm sorry. Journey's wrong.
What about Blink-182? Because I got to tell you, that's a good cover of Journey they did there.
Suck. Why would you even? Why did they cover that song?
Because it's good.
Yeah, it's a good song. If you're going to cover a song, don't make it suck.
It didn't. That was a banger.
Oh, it's not.
I forgot we had access to that. Ian came out with the gloves off. It was good.
Just terrible. Boy, these people are cooking me. That's fine. That's fair.
Yeah, you're getting smoked.
I will take it. I will take it. However, I defy anybody to tell me that there's a South Detroit. Okay, so we can kind of agree to, sometimes you just got to retreat to your corners and stick with what you know.
Maddie says, you have unleashed the East and West Nashville rivalry. We'll soon be approaching each other, snapping in the streets out there. There you go.
So so there's West End. So West
End is a street.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I guess people.
That's like the Vandy area.
Yeah,
That's
right.
pretty much it.
Yeah.
West Nashville, Belmead, Bellevue.
Bellevue.
Yeah.
I mean, I know those places. I've never said.
Yeah, West Nashville.
Glennon, where do you live? Bellevue. Oh, West Nashville. Yeah. I've never heard him say that. I've never heard anybody say that, but I'll believe you all.
Joe's getting smoked on the text line.
I'll
Keep
step
it coming.
back. 615-737-1025.
615-737-1025.
Let's focus on Stilly's dumb stuff here.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. We'll take more of your thoughts on Rexrode's geography, more of your thoughts on the NFL draft as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
While you're living in a van down by the river.
Final hour, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic will be with us at 8:30. We'll get into all things NFL draft with him. You know, geography gets people fired up around here. Text line is just rolling right now with what is West Nashville, what's not West Nashville. A lot of people arguing with you that there is, in fact, South Detroit and tweeting out pictures of maps.
Yeah, some fake map.
Yeah.
Whoever's sending me these fake maps that show South Detroit, you are full of it. Or you're in places on the internet where you're getting bad information. I know that's a crazy thought. There's no South Detroit. I will stick with that. Now,
somebody said there is a South Detroit. It's Ontario.
Yeah, there you go.
Windsor.
Southwest Detroit. Or Southeast Detroit.
Southeast.
Yeah, no, Southwest. Good job. Good geography by me again. So I will tell you, now I agree. Some people are saying it's actually like you get to Belmead, Bellevue. That's a stretch. West Nashville is like Nations and that area, Sylvan Park. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
But I've just heard people call it Sylvan Park or Nations. South Asheville, Antioch. Okay.
Yeah. Like there's South Nashville.
I typically just call it Antioch, but okay, sure.
Nippers Corner, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So Davidson County.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So if we're going to call that all West Nashville, South, fine. I'll start doing that.
That we're calling West End the Vanderbilt area. So that's Midtown. West End's called Midtown.
But see, Midtown is just a little bit right next to it, right? That's how I've kind of viewed it. Midtown is up a little bit, and then West End is actually Vanderbilt, and right?
Just telling you what Keith is upset about.
Okay.
Joey from Bellevue says that he lives in West Nashville. He says, I say that I live in West Nashville, even though he's Joey from Bellevue.
Okay. All right. I'll adjust.
Have some of that, Rexrode.
I will. Hey, you guys want to roast me? That's fine. Now, of course, I've got goofball on the YouTube chat saying, "Oh, your obsession with Jared." Jared brought us up yesterday. Okay. And also then Robby, brought him up earlier. I just was reacting to things. But I have Jared texting me. He says, give me an example of Rand, quote, knowing ball from his tenure as GM. That's not the point. I'm not saying he's a good GM. The point is, even early in his tenure, you're like, these guys, Brinker, they don't know anything about football. Again, like they've spent their entire lives in football. So I'm not saying they've done well. Lots of people fail in the NFL.
Sure.
But you might, again, want to have a little bit of self-awareness when you're talking about people who don't know football, who have spent their entire lives in football.
Maybe so.
Just a thought. I know. Radical thinking here.
Man, these people in the YouTube chat are getting after you too. Just Rexrode's getting cooked everywhere right now. Cooked on the YouTube chat, cooked on the text line.
This is probably like a stilly burner. Yeah. You bring him up. Hey, dude, I promise you, Jared brings us up way more than we bring him up. Way more. It's insane, his obsession with us.
By the way, Justin has reminded me on the text line, it's not really Blink-182 in the cover. It is a cover band, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, like from Facebook, that covered Blink-182, covering the Journey song. Really some good talent there.
Honestly, I don't know anything about that band, but they're better than Blink-182. So
all of a sudden that band is improved. Now that Joe knows it's not Blink-182. As long
as it's not Blink-182,
like, wow,
we're good.
A little better.
Yeah, they might be a little better than them. Big League Design says, why are we talking about this geography crap when there's a draft coming up? Listen, geography is very important.
We did have people on the YouTube chat earlier like, you guys, I think we were talking about Tennessee finding a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, we got the #1 pick this week, and you guys are spending time talking about this. Like, well, here's a shocker, buddy. They're going to take Cam Ward with the #1 overall pick. I got some breaking news for you.
I mean, but it's fair. We've barely talked about the draft.
Yeah, so, we've never discussed it.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Brendan from Madison says he's a downriver transplant here. Anyone who says South Detroit is all caps insane. Thank you, Brendan. It's it's not a thing. But I like the song. I like Journey. I hate Blink-182. There we go.
Somebody asking if the West Nashville topic is going to become the Robby and Rexrode version of the right tackle story. I doubt it. We'd have to put in some serious work for the right tackle story.
John in Springfield said, a lot of people do jobs they suck at. LOL. Yes, for sure. Again, I mean, it's the idea that, whoa, what did Rand do that was good? That's not the point. I mean, but like you're saying someone doesn't know anything about football as a radio gas bag. I'm a radio gas bag. I understand my limitations, okay? We all have roles in life, you know?
We respect Bill Polian.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again,
I just find it funny how much he's been on Jared's show lately as a topic of conversation.
I absolutely respect Bill Polian, and I find it's too bad that Jerry Rice disqualified himself with his 40 time. Chris Carter disqualified himself with his 40 time. DeAndre Hopkins disqualified himself with his 40 time. Devontae Adams disqualified himself with his 40 time. Cooper Kupp disqualified himself with his 40 time. Mike Evans disqualified himself with his 40 time. My God, imagine how much better Bill Polian could have been as a GM if he didn't have that stupid rule.
We did have one texter earlier. I believe it was Eli from Smyrna, ask us if we've heard anything about Brock Purdy becoming the quarterback for the Titans. I have not heard. I don't think that Brock Purdy is going to be the next quarterback of the Titans.
Wow.
Although he was, I mentioned Kittle being at a Preds game a couple weeks ago. Purdy was there. Purdy was in the suite with him. So
is that the genesis
was it
of this
a
rumor?
Recruiting pitch? I'd say, hey, here in about a couple of years.
Throw to me.
When Cam Ward doesn't work out for the Titans, we could be here playing football together.
Maybe. That's got to be where it was, in all seriousness, that's where it was born, right?
I would think.
The rumor. Yeah.
Well, he's in Nashville. He must be interested in the Titans. I think that he's going to make a lot of money as quarterback as the San Francisco 49ers.
I think so. That's going to be interesting, by the way.
Yeah.
All of that. The way that team's kind of unraveling a little bit, and we're going to find out how good he is. A lot of people supporting South Detroit, by the way, that it's not a thing. My wife's from Detroit, born and raised. Yeah, like we can all agree on that. Someone asked if Nashville is South Detroit. It's getting that way.
Kevin from Hendersonville says, will Cam Ward make his permanent residence in West Nashville? Maybe so. Be a heck of a drive to the facility, though. Like you get around it, though.
Yeah, it's all right.
And most of these guys live in what, Brentwood?
Yeah, I mean, where did Aaron build his little thing? It's not that close. Whenever he inevitably becomes a Titans quarterback in 2028,
Thompson Station or something.
It's land
like
somewhere. Yeah,
raw
land
there. Yeah, it's fine. You can get there.
It's built the house yet? It's just an empty plot of land. You got a house there yet?
I think it is, right?
I don't know.
I thought that there was at least a framework on that.
I have no idea. We need to get Stilly down there and check it out.
Don't bring him up. You brought him up. I'm not bringing him up.
He's the one that brought up the Rogers, makings of a compound down there. So we'll
give him credit for it. Yeah.
See if he's there at this point. A couple people have asked about Dante Thornton. Going back to those comments, there was one comp that somebody threw out there of Marquez Valdez-Scantling for Dante Thornton. I don't hate that. A guy that's really fast that sometimes has trouble catching the football. I'm really interested to see where he goes. Like TD's talked about him a lot. Could he end up going in like the third or fourth round? Like to me, that's purely traits based if he does, because the production really wasn't there at the college level. I know last year at Tennessee, he averaged like 25 yards a catch or whatever it was. He just didn't catch the ball all that much, didn't get targeted all that much. And again, the guy can't stay healthy. So,
and look, we've talked about the offense. Don't want to overdo it there, but there is a lacking route tree with some of these guys. And essentially, whenever I saw Dante Thornton make a play, it was just a straight up go route, with a wide split. He's got the speed, but yeah, I'd be very hesitant. Someone sent me the link. Now there is a link about the Titans and Purdy. But it's like SI.com, SI has Sports Illustrated, of course, they have a lot of these, I forget what it's like the Maven stuff.
Yeah.
So Grant Cohn, who I've never heard of, I just read about the Niners and just wrote this speculative piece here. But yeah, like there's no actual, there's nothing actually real about that. So, but this is what happens too. Like SI has made it like it's SI Sports Illustrated,
right.
Link. And it's like basically aggregation and speculation on some of these things that really don't amount to much.
615-737-1025, our phone number. I got a lot more of your draft thoughts to get to. We'll do that coming up next on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. athletic.com. Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic will be with us at 8:30. All that ahead, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Don't miss Nashville's best NFL draft coverage on the Game Nashville Sports Network. We're broadcasting live from Twin Peaks in Madison on Thursday and Friday, Boom Boss Pizza and Watch Bar in East Nashville. Joe Rexrode will be in the house on Friday. Looking forward to that.
I believe it's Chase McCabe, Chris Sanders, and me.
Look forward to that. coming up on Friday. Coverage beginning at 6 o'clock each day. Presented by Hardee's, Parman Tractor and Equipment, Twin Peaks, Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, Shaneco, and Professional Home Improvements. Again, Thursday on 102.5 The Game, Friday on Sports Talk 8:30. So we've got you covered all week long here for the NFL draft. Speaking of the draft, we'll have Nick Baumgardner coming up at 8:30, a draft expert for the Athletics. So looking forward to that conversation with him. Del, I'm interested, there's an idea, and I heard a couple of people discussing this on ESPN yesterday. Schefter wrote about it, which we talked about to begin the show. Like, could there be a run on receiver toward the end of the first round into the second? And if so, what does that mean for the Titans? So, you've got your guys like Egbuka, Burden. We've talked about those two a lot. Could either one of those guys sneak out of the first round and be available by the time pick 35 comes around for the Titans? Like, to me, if you're sticking and picking, it's probably going to be just based on the way it looks like the draft board could be headed. It's probably going to be receiver or edge rusher, where you've got some good options there, which frankly is what the Titans need to have some good options in, receiver or edge rusher. I think you can find both at 35 if you stick and pick. The real challenge is going to be, can you trade back and still end up with both? Like, there's a way that you could trade back, maybe in the 40s. Maybe you go from 35 to, 44 or 46 or whatever it is. But can you pick up another pick there? We talked yesterday, but with Corey Curtis, about Kyle Kennard. Like, could he be available in the 4th round? Maybe. Like, I'd have my doubts that he makes it that far back, but we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I think it is, and TD's talked about this, I tend to agree. I think it's easier to find receivers later in the draft that can be impactful than it is edge rusher. If you're just going position by position, both you want to have as high as possible, but like, you can find receivers scattered across the league that were taken in the 3rd round or the 4th round or the 5th round that are good players in the NFL. You do not find as many of those at edge rusher. Like, Max Crosby would be the one guy that's a later round pick that you really point at.
Yeah, more examples for sure of receivers sprinkled around the middle of the draft who have come in and made a difference, made more of a difference. Yeah, to me, I keep going back to at 35 so again, I'm looking at, like, I'm looking right now at Brugler's 7-rounder that he put out, I think, last week, and he's got the run going at, like, Dart to the Browns at 33, Milroe to the Giants at 34, and then Shuck to the Saints at 40. But that, to me, if that would not be good, but if Shug is there and the Titans are there, so let's say you play it out, 33, Dart goes, 34, Milroe goes. You got your run on quarterbacks. So now, does somebody love Shuck enough to look at 35 and say, well, the Raiders are sitting there at 37. They didn't take they took Ashton Genty or whatever in the 1st round.
Right.
They haven't taken a quarterback. You figure they probably, want a quarterback. So, like, if you're the Saints, rather than sit there and pick at 40, do you try to get up to 35 to beat the Raiders to him? I mean, this is just obviously a scenario I'm completely making up, but I think, there could be other positions too. There could be a player in another position that a team just really wants, and they're like, crap, the Jags are going to take somebody at 36. We got to get to 35. But I just feel like the quarterback scenario that's where you see the run sometimes. And it does feel like this draft could provide a pretty big clump of, 2nd round quarterbacks. So then, if you got the Saints at 40, and then you could also, I'm looking at what else they have, so you'd get 40, which obviously isn't moving back. And, could you get 71 from them into the 3rd round, get 40 and 71 instead of 35? If you could do that, that's a great thing for the Titans. The Saints also, by the way, they might try to trade you 93, which they got from Washington. They've got 2 picks in the 3rd, but there's an example of something that can materialize. And yeah, maybe you're still better off because whoever you could have gotten at 35 is going to end up being just a better player. But the way this draft is evaluated, that kind of scenario to me would be a big deal for them to be able to do that.
Well, and then specifically with receiver, if you're the Titans, how different is your evaluation of, I don't know, in a Mecca Egbuka to a Luther Burden, or from a Luther Burden to a Jaden Higgins, or, Jalen Noel, who could be around there too. I mean, what's your Jalen Royals, who we've talked about? Like, how different is your evaluation when it comes to those guys? Like, is there a big gap between a Burden and a Jaden Higgins in your mind? Like, one guy that we've not talked a lot about that we get asked about on the text line is Trey Harris. Like, how does he factor in terms of the wide receiver? Like, there are a lot of guys that are going to be there at 35. What's your evaluation look like on those guys, and what's the difference between a Burden and some of these other guys?
Right. Yeah. And again, some people are down on Burden, I mean, look, I watched a lot more Burden in his career than I watched either of those Iowa State guys, I mean, Noel here looks like a mid-second round pick, the way people look at him. Like you said, Royals from Utah State. Yeah, the Trey Harris thing is – and by the way, in his mock, he's got the Chiefs at 63 getting Trey Harris, so he'll go there and be pure lightning. He's another fast, but the offense is a big question. Higgins is a really good player. There's no doubt about that. So I don't know. The Burden, some people are worried about his route running and everything. I mean, I'm sitting here watching like practice video this week of Luther Burden running routes that teams have been asking for. We need more.
It is amazing, video. Like the difference in evaluation with these prospects, and we talk about it all the time at quarterback. But like there are some people concerned about Burden's route running, and then you got Chris Collinsworth a couple weeks ago that basically said, "Yeah, I think he's a better version of Deebo Samuel." It's like, okay, like it's a pretty wild opinion variance there on all these guys.
And that's what I'll say, and I'll put myself in the same boat with a Collinsworth. Is Collinsworth doing the nitty-gritty work on this stuff?
I don't know. He's involved with PFF.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's easy. It's very easy to watch film anymore of anybody, But yes, even with people who do the same amount, there's still like we're looking at. I mean, I'm trying to think with it's like TD and I, on Travis Hunter. I mean, TD is down on him as a man corner. Yep. I think he's going to be one of the best man corners the NFL's ever seen. We'll find out who's right. The truth will probably be somewhere in between. But he's like Ted McMillan cooked him in that game. So I feel good about that one. But even at the top of drafts, you got an executive who thinks Cam Ward is not a first round prospect, not a first rounder.
Right. Forget number one overall. It's not the first round.
And the Titans are about to tell us why they took him number one overall.
Right. Did you see where Brugler has your boy Scadaboo going?
No, where?
95 to the Chiefs.
Oh, my God. They're going to win the next 10 Super Bowls. Holy crap.
Hey, come on down, Cam Scadaboo to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, so we've got Trey Harris at 63.
Yeah.
You got Cam Scadaboo going and Josh Simmons, they do need an offensive tackle.
That'd be something.
That'd be pretty good. Patrick Mahomes would be pretty happy, I'd say, if he got like Patrick Mahomes with a power back. You don't think of that offense as anything but a pass catcher, in the backfield. I mean, Kareem Hunt could run with some power and was a good all-around running back, but Cam Scadaboo with Mahomes, oh my God.
He's got Kyle Kennard going in the 5th round to New England. Like if Kyle Kennard's there in the 5th round, the Titans need to jump all over that.
What am I missing on Kyle Kennard?
I mean, he didn't test well. So, but
5th round?
5th, yeah. I mean,
5th round testing?
Sometimes don't you just have to look at what a guy did and say, yeah,
it should matter.
I feel like that could probably be a big factor at the NFL level.
You would hope.
Hey, here's what I don't understand. Like, this is just me, and maybe I'm a total idiot for this. This is why I'm not, an NFL football evaluator. But, there's all this buzz about Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, who's got all the measurables and he tested really well. He didn't do anything in college. Yeah. Like, there's no production.
Yeah.
I would take Kyle Kennard over Shamar Stewart. And I know that that's not going to be the way it plays out in the NFL. That's just me, though.
Well, there was a not the same level, but if I remember correctly, Myles Garrett, I remember, in fact, I wrote this in Tennessee, and like Derek Barnett, I think had more production than Myles Garrett.
It was close, but yeah.
Myles Garrett still produced, but there was still this. The measurables are insane, but is he that good of a football player? And obviously, he is. I'm not saying it's the same as this, but it reminds me a little bit of that, where it's like, I hear you. Shamar Stewart is fascinating. I know some people think like the Lions are like trying to move up to get him. Some teams are in love with him. Like, yeah, he's there. He's going to make the plays in this league. But yeah, production.
He had 4.5 sacks in 3 years.
Yeah.
Again, I realize that sacks aren't everything, okay? But they are something. Like, you have to finish at the college level. So, again, clearly, I mean, at this point, I'll be surprised if he doesn't go either in the first round or very early in the second. I'd be scared to death of that if I was an NFL team.
Yeah, it's a weird situation for sure. He's a good test case because you've seen, I've seen like Dante Thornton. Maybe he doesn't have the production. He has the skills, and maybe he finds a spot, and all of a sudden he makes plays left and right. But that's part of why I'd be afraid of him too.
615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll be joined by Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Tuesday morning. Couple days out from the NFL draft, and to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Nick Baumgardner from The Athletic. Nick, good morning. How are you?
Morning, fellas. How are you?
Doing awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Nick, I want to bring you into a conversation we were just having. Like we know what the Titans are doing at number one with Cam Ward. We were discussing some other interesting prospects in the first round. What do you make of Shamar Stewart, the edge rusher out of Texas A&M, who has tested unbelievably well, and the production in college was almost zero? I mean, he's got 4.5 sacks in 3 years at Texas A&M. So what do you make of him, how he projects to the next level, and how scared would you be if you're one of these teams about the lack of production in college?
Yeah, I'd be nervous, and it really depends on what you need out of a guy right now. You know, if you're looking for a guy to walk in the door and help change your culture and be a guy who's just like a relentless presence right off the gate here, then I'm not sure that, this is your pick, in the top 10. And that's why there's, quite a range on Shamar. He was a 4.59 guy, 40-inch vert, the at 270, whatever it was, 6'6", 270, great length. Reminds me a lot of Trayvon Walker, who was the number one pick there to Jacksonville several years ago. And as we know, it took Trayvon a little bit to get going. He had a much better year last year, but it took him a couple years to figure it out. And I think that's going to be sort of this situation with Stewart. And I almost wonder, if he's a guy that starts sliding down the board and maybe one of the teams at the back end who's a little more, built and ready to go, playoff contender type thing, who could bring him in and kind of, curate his role a little bit more. I wonder if that would be more interest for the teams on the back end. But I mean, athletically, in a draft like this, without, a ton of no doubt blue chip players here, it's impossible to ignore everything he puts together. I mean, he's probably the best, I guess him and Abdul Carter, when Abdul's healthy, are the best athletes in that defensive line class.
So, Nick, as we said, obviously we know QB1 in this draft, and we think we know. How do you look at the rest of the group? I'm intrigued by the talk of, Jalen Milroe, who did not play well in the back half of last season at all, but also is a guy that you could build an offense around his skill set. And I mean, it could be maybe something like Lamar Jackson with Baltimore.
Yeah.
But obviously then you have Shedeur Sanders. There's all this buzz now about Tyler Shuck. Like, how do you view the rest of the QB class after Cam Ward?
Well, I think you said it well, intrigued. I mean, that's kind of the class. It's not a flawless class by any stretch. It's not really close to what we saw last year. I do think Ward at the top. I mean, Cam would have been drafted somewhere, I think, around where Bo Nix and those guys and McCarthy went last year. I think he's in the mix there with the latter half of the guys in the first round last year that we saw. But beyond that, I'm not sure Shedeur would have been, close to that high. I don't think I would take him with a top 5 pick. I like him. I think that if you put him on a team with talent, I'd like to fit with Pittsburgh quite a bit. A team that's got some pieces here and there that need some more work, but also isn't, a total mess. I'd like to fit a lot more. But him, Jackson Dart, and Tyler Shuck, I feel like are much closer together than people probably realize or have written maybe earlier in the process here. Those guys are quality players who all have good arms, have done well in the systems they played in college, but also there's a bunch of questions with all of them, right? Like Shedeur, I mean, the footwork, not taking sacks. Is he going to be big enough to handle it? It's a similar conversation with Dart in terms of, he played in an offense that, hasn't really translated well to the NFL. So we'll see, but there's also a lot of talent there. Shuck's older. And then, Joe, you mentioned Milroe, and I think others have kind of called him kind of the lottery ticket of this class, and that if you can put Jalen Milroe in a situation where you give him time and you don't play him at quarterback for like a year, let him grow, let him learn, and let him settle down and get him with a good quarterback coach, then it's conceivable that he could turn into sort of like a, maybe a Lamar or a Jalen Hurts, type guy, faster Jalen Hurts, that type of thing. If you have an offense curated to running the ball, protecting him and not putting him in situations where he's got to do a whole lot to win the game for you with his arm, then I think in time he can do that. But the challenge with him, he's not 20 years old. He's almost 23. He's had 2 or 3 years of starting experience. And like you said, Joe, I mean, it wasn't pretty last year, and that's stuff that we can't really unsee. So there's a lot of guys in this class that could be something, but we'll have to wait and see. Quinn Ewers and Kyle McCord are a couple others that that I've liked in that same vein too. So a lot of talent here, but also not a lot of polish.
So Nick, there's Donovan Ezeraku, there's Landon Jackson, there's James Pierce. So, a lot of guys, Jordan Birch out of Oregon, that could be there in that kind of late first into the second round area at edge rusher. What's the quality there? What do you make of the quality of what could be available at that spot at edge rusher early on in the second round?
Yeah, this is a good class for edge. I mean, it really turned out to be. I mean, it's not as deep, I don't think, as a defensive tackle class. I think that one goes a little bit longer. But in terms of the top end talent in the first 3 rounds, I think it's really solid. You mentioned a couple guys there: Pierce, Ezeraku, Jackson. I would also mention JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State. You got Jack Sawyer, the other Ohio State edge. Nick Scourton, who played with Shamar Stewart at Texas A&M, also a really good player and a really good kid, really good character guy. Oluwafemi Oladejo is one that didn't get a lot of love from UCLA. Who's another guy who's really powerful, really strong player. I think that all those guys in that group right there are all solid second-round picks that'll have second-round grades. Ashton Gillott from Louisville is another solid player. Princey Uman-Millian. So you've got, 10 or 11 guys on day 2 and, second and third round guys really that I think could be players that come in and do something right away. Not a lot of guys, once you get past the first round, obviously, that are going to be like, you can put him out there for every down and he's just going to be dominant. But, I mean, guys like JTT from Ohio State, I mean, he's a really solid player, really high floor player. Landon Jackson, I think, is similar. High floor player is going to be good. Jordan Birch is going to be a good quality player for people. It's maybe not an all-pro every year or a Pro Bowler every year, something like this, but, guys that can get it done, guys that can help, and guys that can help a team sort of turn things around quickly here and get moving in the right direction.
So overall, Nick, do you look at this like basically you get to mid first round or so, and from there to mid third round range, something like that, you're talking kind of like the same tier of player?
Yeah, it really kind of does. Yeah, that's a great point. I think it even goes to like, if you get beyond like the first 12 or 13 players on a board, I think it turns into, you're looking at similar value. I think you're looking at guys that are quality players that can help you, but also a lot of them that have a flaw here, a flaw there, or room to grow here. We don't know about it quite yet. You mentioned James Pierce is a great example. The kid from Tennessee, terrific athlete, was awesome at Tennessee in pass rush situations. But also there's been a lot of talk about, is he coachable? Things like this. There's not a lot of character issues in this class, but there's a couple, out there that stick out for guys. There's all, in every player, we just talked about Jack Sawyer there a second. I mean, he's got the short arms. He's not a great athlete in terms of, comparisons with other guys. So everybody has a little something that you're sort of like, well, I like him, but maybe I don't love him. And I think that kind of starts this year in like the middle of the first round, and it goes on and on. So, there'll be a lot of teams, I think, that would like the idea of trading out and moving back, but I'm not so sure how easy that's going to be, unless you've got players sliding down the board and teams at the back end of the first round want to come up and do it. It's going to be challenging because I do think, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's going to be an eye of the beholders type situation. There's not any real consensus inside the league about who are the top 30 guys. I think they're the closest consensus you'd have are like who's the top 10, and that might even be a stretch. So it's going to be pretty wild, I think, in some ways. I think that, we've talked a lot about only 2 quarterbacks in the first round. Would not surprise me if we see 3 or 4. If some other guys slip in, wouldn't surprise me if we see multiple running backs in the first round this year, because it's like, how long do you want to wait on some of this stuff? Because again, like you said, it's if you like a guy and you're at 17 or 18, you're going to take him. And if that's a guy that's at 60 on someone else's board, then that's just how it's going to go. And I think that we'll see that a few times this year.
We've also talked some today, Nick, about receivers and 40 times. And some people have rules of, I'm not taking a guy who has a 40 time higher than this or that. Tat McMillan is a classic example of a guy who looks great on film, didn't run great by any means. Some people think Matthew Golden is, just the better product. Obviously, he ran incredibly well. How do you view, first of all, just the 40-time conversation with the receivers, and then McMillan in particular? What do you think happens with him?
Well, I mean, it's not an irrelevant conversation. I think that there's a lot of people who talk about, it's over, it's nothing, it's not a big deal, it's not nothing. I think that the importance there that you're looking at is usually the start, like the 10-second split there, because I think in today's football, with a lot of offenses being quick and have the quarterbacks go through progression stats, if you can't win, off the line with your speed, oftentimes you're passed on and you're on to the next route, onto the next read, whatever it is. And we've seen that from big body guys before, and that's why a lot of big body guys like Drake London, who is the best comparison probably for Tat McMillan. I don't think Drake ran at the combine, and rightly so. I mean, it was like he's not going to do it because people are going to sort of overreact. It's not nothing, but it's also not that big of a deal if you're talking about a guy, and I don't think it is a big deal for McMillan, a guy who has really good route discipline, who's won in the slot, one outside, one pretty much anywhere you put him on the field, is great after the catch, great in the air, can adjust to bad throws, all those things, a competitive player. I assume turned down a bunch of money to stay there at Arizona. I think he's a quality kid that wants to be really good. The 40 time for a big guy who's about 220 is an elite, but it's not everybody can be Calvin Johnson, I think, at that size. So it's a little bit of give and take on that. It's not everything, it's not nothing. And I think that's where the tape comes in, and you really have to use that as your default and how you're judging a guy. And McMillan, last year was good. I do think he was dinged up. The year before that was elite, was amazing. I mean, if you look at his tape from 2023, it was ridiculous. So I do think there's a lot there. I think he's a really good player. And he's one, I think, that if he starts sliding again, I think he could be a guy that somebody at the back of the first round says, hey, we're a good team. We can take the chance. Let's go get him. Maybe he can be the guy that pushes us over the top to either win a playoff game or get further in the playoffs, whatever it may be. So I like him. And I think that the 40 time is one of those things where it's evolved over the years to where it's relevant for some positions. It's not for others. I think for a receiver, it is relevant, but it's not the entire, conversation.
Well, Nick, really good stuff, man. Really appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much for being with us this morning, and we'll talk to you soon.
Totally, fellas. Take care.
Nick Baumgardner, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode from The Athletic. We'll react to what he had to say, also get into a move from the Tennessee Volunteers at quarterback that took place late yesterday evening. We did all that. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, brought to you by First Horizon, Big Bank Muscle, Small Bank Hustle. Visit firsthorizon.com/get-it-all. Appreciate Nick Baumgardner for being with us on the program. If you missed it, go check it out, Robby and Rexrode, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, thegamenashville.com. Adam Vingan was with us earlier in the program as well. Joe, a lot more coming this week on the NFL draft front. We are now, according to the counter on ESPN, 58 hours away from the NFL draft coming up, so we're getting closer. Woo!
All right. We made progress during this show.
We did. The Tennessee Volunteers have found a quarterback. Joey Aguilar, who was at App State last year, the last 2 years, transferred to UCLA to be the starting quarterback at UCLA, and then Nico Iamaleava ends up at UCLA. So now Joey Aguilar at Tennessee, according to reports yesterday, which means that what has basically happened here is Tennessee and UCLA have traded quarterbacks as we head into the 2025 college football season. Joe, what do you make of this move, this being the landing spot of where Tennessee has found their next quarterback? And is Aguilar the unquestioned starter as a senior heading into this year? Do you think Merklinger still has a chance to win the job? How do we view where Tennessee's quarterback room currently sits?
Imagine a week ago, or I guess 2 weeks ago, telling Tennessee fan, hey, how about a trade of your quarterback for UCLA's quarterback? What would the answer be? The answer would first be, who the hell is UCLA's quarterback?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the kid from App State. Okay.
I don't think there would have been a ton of excitement.
Yeah. And look, it's I said this earlier. I would take him over, like, say, a Steve Angeli from Notre Dame, who's just as a quarterback they keep not wanting to play for them. I mean, the guy has played and has done some good things. You dig deep on the numbers. You know, I don't like that last year, the 55% completion. Don't like that. Now, it was 63 the year before that. It's a
pretty massive drop off.
It is a pretty massive drop off. He also dropped from 33 touchdowns to 23 touchdowns, and he went up from 10 picks to 14 picks. So he had, his rating was 20 points worse in 24 than 23. Anybody out there who pays close attention to App State football, offensive line fell apart. I don't know. I'm asking, but you look at those numbers again against Clemson, for example. He's like 18 for 41. I think you had to add somebody, and it's good to have him in the mix. He's got some talent. I still right now would put my money on Jake Merklinger starting the opener for the Vols. But I think you needed something beyond, even though George McIntyre, I think, is going to be a good player at some point. He's a true freshman, and I think you needed to bolster your depth. I know that's not exciting for Vols fans. I think the Vols did try to pry a more proven Power 4 starter away from a team, and they obviously did not get it done.
I would put my money on Aguilar being the starter, and I think there's a chance as the year goes on that maybe Merklinger could either unseat him at some point, or because of play, you make a switch at some point. I said there on the show, I think Tennessee, in the aftermath of all this, is probably about an 8-4 team, maybe somewhere in that neighborhood, 7-5, 8-4, which I know is not exciting coming off the year of making the college football playoff. And look, frankly, the excitement level from last year when you made the college football playoff was, this was great. This was awesome. And now Nico's going to take a huge step next year, and we're going to get back, and you're going to be a threat when you come to the college football playoff. And right now, where their roster is, I don't feel that way. Now, maybe he can. I will say this has the opportunity to be hilarious. Like if Aguilar comes in and plays great for Tennessee and Nico is not good at UCLA, it has the opportunity to be quite funny.
Oh, yeah. So you put your money on. So maybe we should make a bet. Should we have a bet on this? I mean, I said
Sure.
I'd put money on Merklinger. You put your money on Aguilar
To start the season.
Yeah.
Game 1 against Syracuse. Yeah, I'll go Aguilar.
Okay. What are we betting? More pizza?
I guess pizza. That
More
we'll
pizza?
never eat.
Yeah. When are we gonna have that pizza?
Well, it would help if the place in question was ever open, in an actual hour of the day. But yeah.
And we should almost give a free ad just to complain about these this change in hours.
It's like, wow,
not quite.
You guys operate a business where you're never open. It's amazing how that works.
1 hour a day. Come on in. Hurry.
It's crazy.
Okay, pizza and beer.
That's what we'll do.
All right. That's
think,
my currency.
I'm interested to see how that goes. And now, the portal closes, I believe, Friday. So does Tennessee, do they go out a receiver? I think they definitely need to go bring in an offensive lineman somewhere. It doesn't even really have to be a starter, but get somebody in there. But I'm interested to see are there corresponding moves now that they've got the quarterback part settled.
To me, it would be good. Add for sure.
Make sure there's no subtracting.
Yeah, that's my thing. It's like, okay, so these guys like Mike Matthews is cool. Nico left, he's cool. I mean, I know that they took care of him, but still, if you're him, it's like, man, who's throwing me the football this year? But as long as there's no subtracting of guys they're going to lean on, that's a good thing.
People around that program seem to really like the Merkslinger. So we'll see how it goes.
I think he's got a chance to be pretty good.
We'll see how it goes. That does it for us today here on the program. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3 The Game.